Thank you. That's right, I'm Jonah. Good to be here with you guys. You might have heard of me from the Bible, or perhaps from that animated movie starring vegetables. It's okay. I'm more of a Pixar guy, but it's fine. Oh, and I see some of you are wondering what I'm wearing here. I got my Cubs jersey on, right? Yeah? So some team, the balls and the bases, anyway, some team hasn't won a championship since I was like alive or something. Anyway, my friend Moshe heard I was going to be here, and he said, if you're going to Chicago, you need to, he sent me this Cubs jersey, and he said, you're going to wear it, the guys are going to love it. I don't really see exact, because I'm, oh. What? That's not a Cubs jersey. It's a jersey for a hockey team that doesn't exist anymore called the Hartford Whalers. Your friend is playing a joke on you, Whalers, get it? Great. That's great. Okay. I should have, Moshe, he is always trying to play jokes on me, and I should have, no, great, yeah. Well, I was a prophet for a long time. I got 1,000 stories about different prophecies, but you get swallowed just that one time by a whale, and all of a sudden you're the whale guy, It's like my last name is and the whale. Imagine if you were identified, your very identity was defined by your biggest failure. You're walking down the street and somebody says, hey, look, it's Bob and the shoplifted candy bar. Hey, it's Cindy and the plagiarized term paper. Or, it's Ray and the tongue on the flagpole. Like, it's not really fair, but I assume you're going to want to hear about the whale story too. I get it, that's fine. Now, so most of you know the gist of the story, and you're probably going to judge me for being a bad prophet. Okay, let me just walk you through the day. So I wake up, and I say, okay, Yahweh, what do you have for me? Which person of Israel needs correction or encouragement or rebuke? I have no idea what's coming. Here's what came. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. Now, I know that you're sitting here saying, what's the big deal? Just go to Nineveh, share the thing. Nineveh's a city in Assyria, by the way. Go to Nineveh, get your prophecy out of the way, call it a day. Well, here's a couple things you need to know. The first thing you need to know is that prior to this, God had never told any of his prophets to give a prophecy outside of the nation of Israel. Just didn't happen. The second thing you need to know is how we all felt about Assyria in general and Nineveh in particular. I don't know how to compare it to you. Sort of like, okay, take the person that you hate the most, and then imagine that they also smell bad and they're mean to your pets, and like when an old lady's walking across the street, they shove them into the oncoming traffic instead of helping them. And that's just like 1/10 of how we felt about the people of Nineveh. They're just awful people. And that's not even the main reason I didn't want to go and preach to them. It's actually, well, I'm a little embarrassed to say. We'll just get to that at the end. So I have this assignment that I've been given, and I think about Nineveh, and then all of a sudden, all I can think about is Tarshish. Tarshish sounds like a nice place to go right now. I've never been to Tarshish, but I've heard it's lovely, and most importantly, Nineveh is that way, and Tarshish is that way. And so I decide to run. And I know it sounds stupid, but it's just what seemed to be the right thing for me to do. Have you ever had that feeling where you feel like you can run from God, that it made sense? Somehow in my unwillingness to be obedient to God because of what I'll get into later, I thought that I could flee from God's presence. So off I go. I buy one ticket to Tarshish, and it was nice on the boat. It was really... I started to feel even better about my decision, and the rationalizations really started to kick in there. I started to say, I haven't been doing all that great spiritually lately, and I haven't really been strong with my devos so much, And why would God want to use a guy like me? There's probably someone way better than me that he could use for this assignment. This is all, maybe I misunderstood him, and it's all going to work out fine. So then I look up and I see that the clouds starting to move in, which is a little annoying because I'm enjoying my, kind of the sun. It's a nice sunbathing time. And then the rain starts to come, and then it really starts to just pour. And then the wind picks up, and there's like this greenish color to the sky. And we start to realize this is not an ordinary storm. And the crew starts freaking out. They are throwing cargo overboard just to save our lives. And I had this feeling, okay, there's something very abnormal and unusual about this storm. And so I did exactly what any of you might have done at a time like this. Nap time is what I'm thinking, right? Perfect time just to have a little shut-eye. Again, if I can just hide a little bit more, maybe all this will go away. But the captain found me, and he shakes me awake, and he says, "What are you doing sleeping at a time like this? Pray to your God too." And I'm like, yeah, that's the thing. I am trying to avoid my God. That's why I'm here, and that's why this storm has started in the first place. By now, the whole crew has come to the conclusion that this storm is not any ordinary storm, that some god or gods is upset with someone on the boat. And so they decide to draw straws to figure out who it is on the boat that is causing this. And I'm confident. I don't even have to look. I know that it's going to be me. And sure enough, it's me. So they come up to me and they just start peppering me with questions. They say, "Tell us, who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" And I'm like, what is this, a speed date? I didn't say that. I said, I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. And I said, guys, he is the one who made this storm, and all of this is happening because I'm running away from him. And their eyes get really big, and they ask me, okay, so what do we do now? And I'm like, well, isn't it obvious? You got to throw me overboard. That's the only way, which they don't really want to hear because they realize that this God, this Yahweh that is causing the storm, that if I know him, they don't really want to kill the guy who knows the God who's making this, but they know that they kind of have to. And so I say, don't you get it? Either I die or we all die. And in that moment, I have to start coming to terms with the fact that I'm about to meet my Maker, and my Maker is not very happy with me. So it was terrifying to know that it was the only option, but with fear and regret in their eyes, they grab me, they say, "Sorry, Yahweh, please don't hate us for this." And they take me, they throw me overboard, splash. And wouldn't you know, in that instant, the sky clears. The storm is gone. And I watch these guys as the boat begins to sail into the distance. I don't know whatever happened to them. But what I can tell you, I think, well, at the very least, my disobedience made a believer out of those men on that boat. And so here I am, alone, and I begin to wonder, okay, well, what's it going to be that's going to do me in? Am I going to drown? Am I going to starve to death? Is some giant bird going to come pluck at me? Is some fish going to... And as soon as I have that thought, I hear this low rumbling beneath me. And I feel this pull into the sea. And all in one motion, I see this giant mouth and this giant tongue, and then it's dark. And I think, well, that's it. It's over. But okay, I know this is weird, but I have this just awareness and understanding that in this moment, the whale wasn't there to eat me. The whale was actually there to save me from anything else that might have eaten me. And I just think, oh, isn't that just like Yahweh? I deserve to die for my disobedience. Couldn't have been clearer what I was supposed to do. I deserve to die. And instead of killing me, he saves me. And I just I just sat there. It's hard to describe. I didn't know if it was sort of this combination. I didn't know if I was sleeping or dreaming, but I just began inside of this massive thing. I just began to worship God. I was inside of this miracle as it was happening. And I ended my time of worship with these words. I said, "Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them." That is, when you hold tightly to the things you worship instead of God, you can't hold on to God. And for me, I was holding on to this desire to control my life, and I clearly needed to let go and be obedient. And then I went on to pray this. "But I, with shouts of grateful praise, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say, salvation comes from the Lord." Salvation. You sometimes hear about people talking about that in terms of a spiritual thing, but I really felt it. He saved me. He saved me in that moment. He saved me from my foolishness. He saved me from my disobedience. I couldn't run from God anymore. I had actually tried to choose death over God's call, and he wouldn't let me. So I finally said, "Okay, God, whatever you want me to do, I want to do it. I will be obedient to you." And that was my first big lesson from this whole story. I thought, I will never again question him. I will never again be disobedient or have a bad attitude. I meant it when I said it. And we'll come back to that later. I still didn't know what was happening next, but next thing you know, all of a sudden it's light again, and I land on the beach, and I'm covered in whale vomit, and I look up, and I don't even have to guess what it is. I know that it's Nineveh. And I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to figure, okay, what am I supposed to do now? I know that the term whale vomit sounds glamorous, but it wasn't, a little unsavory. So I sort of try to get cleaned up, and I go, all right. I hear the voice of Yahweh. He says to me, "Go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim to it the message I give you." And I go. This time I got it loud and clear. So Nineveh is this massive city, and it'd take you 3 days to walk through it. So I walk for about a day, and I finally come to the middle of the town, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. And when I get there, to be honest, I was having a hard time. My attitude kind of starts to change again. But when I saw those nasty little Ninevites, because they were Ninevites, they did not deserve to hear from Yahweh. I still didn't know why he was bothering to send me to them in the first place. I mean, they were awful people who deserved the punishment that they got. Or at least they deserved to go on continue being ignored because of the awful things that they did. But I tried my best. Obedience was my goal, since I'd really failed at that prior to this. So I said, you know what? I'm going to say my thing, and I'm going to get out, and this will be over. So I went into the market, and I said, excuse me, folks, can I have your attention, please? My name is Jonah. I'm a prophet. I have this message from Yahweh. His message is this: 40 more days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. Thank you for your time. And I walk away. And they start asking me questions. They said, well, what do you mean it will be overthrown? And they're really curious about what I'm talking about. And they say, well, how would we stop this? What do we have to do? And I say, well, I mean, you're probably not going to want to do this, but you could fast and put on sackcloth as a sign that you want to stop being evil and start doing good. And they did it. And after a while, I hear that the king wants to see me. And at first I think, okay, is this Moshe playing a trick on me again? But I realize probably not. And so I go. I don't know what to expect from the king. I go into the palace. He takes off his royal robe and puts on sackcloth. And I'm like, okay, this is probably just an act. Then he says, let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows, God may yet relent and with compassion turn from his fierce anger so that we will not perish. And I stay with him a while, and I'm trying to be polite, but secretly I'm hoping that someone will still mess this up and that God will, in fact, do some smiting of the people, because a good smiting is really fun to watch. And I'm just kind of hanging out, waiting. I got a front row at this, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. I get this final word from God. I tell them that God was not going to bring on them the destruction that he had planned, and so there's cheering. And they thank me, and I excuse myself to go have a word with Yahweh. Because see, I I knew this was going to happen. This is why. The reason I didn't want to tell you why I wanted to go, this is what it was. Because I didn't want to give this word from Yahweh, because I knew that God would show them mercy. He wanted to love them, and I didn't want them to experience love. Now, you may think that preaching against someone, you may think, well, Jonah, why didn't, if you really didn't like them, why didn't you jump at the chance to preach against them, to rebuke them? Well, if there's something I've learned from my many years of delivering prophecies, it's that when you care about someone, that's when you preach against them. If you don't like someone, you don't rebuke them. In the same way that, if someone is about to fall off a cliff, and someone yells at them sternly, stop what you're doing. At first, it may sound like, oh, what's going on? You're being mean to me. When you realize what they're stopping you from doing, you realize that is actually loving. I knew that if I preached to those dirty little Ninevites, that it would make their lives better. It would make them happier. They would experience joy. And if I'm being honest, I did not want them to experience joy. I liked that they were miserable in their sin. I was experiencing what the Germans call Schadenfreude. Do you know this word? Schadenfreude is taking pleasure in the misery of others. It's sort of like the converse of jealousy. Jealousy is when you're sad because others are happy. Schadenfreude is when you're happy because others are sad. That was me. I enjoyed the fact that they were sad. I mean, it's not fair that I have worked my whole life to be good, and then they hear one sermon and they get to experience love? Come on, no, not on my watch. So Yahweh and I have it out. I say to him, isn't this what I said, Lord? When I was still at home, that is what I tried to forestall by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger, abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live. Now, I was being a little irrational, a little drama thing happening, but that's how I felt. And then Yahweh called me out. He said, is it right for you to be angry? And I was so mad, I didn't answer him. I was pretty much in full tantrum mode at this point. Now, I recognize that this story is weird. It actually gets a little bit weirder because I'm just having a moment to myself, and it's hot out, and out of nowhere, this plant starts growing. I know. This plant starts growing and gives me shade, and it's really nice. It's really helpful. I fall asleep in the shadow of this plant. I begin to feel better, and in the morning, I wake up, and I see this little worm come out, and he starts to eat the plant, and it withers. And then the sun comes out, it's blazing hot again, and all of a sudden I'm back in tantrum mode, and I feel like I just want to die again. But then I realize what's happening. I realize it's an object lesson for me. Yahweh had one last thing to say to me, and he said this: you have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight, and it died overnight. And should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals? And that's how the book of Jonah ends. It doesn't record my response. And I'm glad it didn't, because I said, should you not have concern for the great city of Nineveh? No, why? Why do you need to have concern for the great city of Nineveh when you've got your own people to worry about? What about us? They deserve to be loved? No, they don't. They deserve to be miserable. Don't waste your time on them. What did they do to earn that kind of love, huh? What about me? They're not like me. I was circumcised on the 8th day of the people of Israel, a Hebrew of Hebrews in regard to the law, a prophet. As for righteousness based on the law, faultless. I have earned what I got. And the silence was deafening. And I looked up at the plant, and I looked at the worm, and I listened to what I'd been saying, and I began to weep. Because it took a storm and a whale to teach me about obedience, which was important. but it took a plant and a worm to teach me about God's heart. I'd gotten the part about obedience, but I had missed the part about God's heart. And what I realized in this moment is that I actually didn't deserve God's love any more than I deserved to have this plant over my head, any more than I deserved to have a heart beating in my chest, or deserve to be one of God's people. It's all a gift. And I realized that all of my accomplishments were nothing compared to knowing God's love personally. He wasn't interested in my accomplishments at all. He just wanted me to receive his love. And then he wanted me to be open to the idea that he wanted people outside of what I thought was his family to receive his love as well. I thought obedience was enough, but it wasn't. My actions were obedient, but my heart was very, very cold. What I was missing was the heart behind it. The heart behind God is that he loved those people that I hated. And when I was experiencing joy at their destruction, God was experiencing torment. Where I had schadenfreude, God had compassion, so much so that he would chase after me. But the whole time he was chasing after me, I still thought it was about me. In fact, my whole life, I'd focused on myself. Even when I looked at Yahweh, it wasn't for the sake of Yahweh, for the glory of Yahweh. It was for what I thought I could get out of being one of his followers. You remember before when I was in the whale and I said, those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them? That was me. My idol was myself, and how much I could get out of God's love. I needed my whole perspective to change, and I realized this. The problem wasn't the nasty Ninevites. It was me. See, what I realized is that when I ran away from God, and then he chased me down and sent a storm to tear the boat apart, sent a whale to rescue me, I still didn't get it. I thought, wow, I must be pretty important if you do all this for me. But it wasn't about me at all. It was about them. It's about God's incredible love for the whole world. And I'm included in that, yeah, but it was about God's great love for those people. Those people. Those people. Do you have a those people in your life? Or maybe on the fringe of your life, people that you don't even want to know exist? How could God love those people? Are there people in your life that you think don't deserve God's mercy? Because God doesn't have those people. Every one of those are ones that God longs to love, longs to bless. He even says he wants to bless their animals too. He loves those people, he loves these people, he loves the best of these, and he loves the least of these. And he will stop at nothing to communicate that love. And he'll even use dirty little sinners like me. So maybe some of you can learn something from me. I don't know. Maybe God wants you to care more about those people than you do right now. Or maybe you think you're one of those people. I don't know. Maybe you think you never thought God could use you or love you. And let me be the one to tell you that you're wrong. Because if God cared enough to send a storm and a whale to come after me because I was such a failure, then I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he would do the same thing so that each of you knows that he loves you. See, I know what it's like to have God chasing after you, and to be honest, it's kind of annoying. It really is. But the best thing you can do is stop. God is not after you to take from you. He actually wants to give. He wants to give his love to you. It's unexpected, and it's intrusive, and it's the only thing that matters. And the best thing you can do is stop running and receive from him. Receive his love for you and the I'm going to ask Taylor to come pray for us.